Hey everybody, Ed here with the Digital Digest, and today I wanted to share a quick update on my experience with the Samsung Galaxy Tab S 10.5. Priced at $499 for the 16GB Wi-Fi version of this tablet and $549 for the 32GB version. You can pick it up in either white, which we're looking at today, or titanium bronze. Both are quite attractive, especially when compared to Samsung's previous generations, at least in my opinion. The color scheme is about as good as it gets, as is build quality, and of course the gorgeous Super AMOLED display, 2560 by 1600 resolution, really giving you the best of both worlds. Not only do you have best-in-class pixel density, but you also now have a next-gen display type that you'll only find here in the Tab S lineup, much like Samsung's S line of Galaxy phones. Beyond the display, which really is the calling card of this tablet lineup, and in my opinion makes every other tablet display look like it's from another era, as it should, you are getting some still best-in-class hardware, despite the fact that Samsung has decided to go with a quad-core processor that they've been using for some time, and that's their very own Exynos 5. It is a quad-core chip that actually is an octa-core. In other words, there are two quad-core chips. One is aimed at handling the high-end tasks, and that is a A15 chip clocked at 1.9 gigahertz, and then there is a lower spec quad-core chip and clock chip at 1.3 to deal with lighter tasks. I'll do a little bit of browsing here, and by the way, the stock keyboard included here really is quite good. Part of the overall software improvement that this tablet brings to the table, I would say, in just about every form and fashion. And if you're working in Chrome, inherently Chrome is probably the most difficult browser, ironically, to work with on any Android tablet. Even on a Nexus device, it is your only option, of course, and that's where it really lives and breathes. But anytime you go to another manufacturer, inherently you're dealing with another beast, and that's why Samsung does still incorporate their very own Webkit browser. You can see I've got the channel up there, and actually, you know what? I'll start with a little bit of playback. You can see I've actually got this video ready to go. Of course, an error occurred. Let's try reloading it, if I can. And I'll actually jump into the YouTube application.
Hey everybody, Ed here with the Digital Digest, and today I wanted to share a quick unboxing and first look at the Samsung Galaxy Tab.
And of course, you can jump into settings. We're at 1080p. You'll see what buffering is like. Nowhere near the router, by the way, as usual. And brightness is at 100% here.
So really, I'm just overwhelmed, if you haven't noticed, with the difference. They won't necessarily want to pay for the difference.
And I'm showing you this now because the display is really what is so great about this tablet. There's no question about it. I mean, there's a reason, as I've played over and over again, the sample video that Samsung includes. It's because it just looks great. And by the way, speaker quality, side mounted right here. When you're holding the tablet, not an issue. Very loud. Is it the best audio I've heard from a tablet? Absolutely not. But it improves upon previous generations, which is exactly what the entire Tab S lineup does. So the combo here of the resolution plus the quality of the Super AMOLED just delivers an experience that's unlike any other when it comes to media consumption, both in the video and still department. And that's exactly what you want from a media consumption product like this, the iPad, or any other tablet that's going to be thin, lightweight, and deliver all of the content that you're interested in. But when it comes to simple things like web browsing, it's still going to do a very good job, and that's because that quad-core chip complemented by 3 gigs of RAM keeps this tablet relevant through this year. I mean, granted, there are tablets around the corner with 4 gigs of RAM in the mobile world. They're coming, and the storage capacities also in China, things they're doing are wild compared to what we have here right now. But at the end of the day, we are seeing, really, in my opinion here, one of the best tablets when you really bring together the sum of its parts that you could possibly, want. In terms of pricing, it's on point with, the standard for top-tier equipment. And that's part of the compromise Samsung is making here in order to deliver a display you will not get from any other manufacturer. So while I would have loved to have seen another generation processor in here, I am more than willing to live with it because the performance on a day-to-day basis is still very good. You're not going to really have issues with performance that are going to make you wish that they had gone with something else until we have software that really challenges it any further. And quite frankly, the only software that challenges the hardware you get from Samsung is their very own TouchWiz Magazine UX. The irony, but it's true. All of this, robust hardware was here in the original Note 10 2014 edition that I reviewed in the past, and the reason this tablet runs so much better, so much more efficiently, of course that has to do with the Super AMOLED display as well, is because of the software improvements. It's not the aesthetic design, it's not that it got thinner, lighter, and also gained screen real estate. It's that they refined the KitKat build here that it's working with out of the box, and it's better than it's ever been. So whether you want to web browse and find out whether LeBron is going to try to ruin my Knicks, which isn't what this article is about, but I still have a sneaking suspicion as they show these two side by side, and I know how badly they want to play together, but I'm not going to go off on a sports tangent here. Not that there's much to ruin with the Knicks. Not going to do my comedy routine here, but the whole point is that this tablet's ready to roll, whatever you got to do. It's going to be able to handle every task you throw at it, and if you want to go into productivity and really challenge a PC, you can. I'm bringing up the keyboard another time because I'm not going to another website, but I want to talk about usability. And that's another thing. Because they've made this bezel so slim, you really do have the ability to easily reach across this entire keyboard, which is critical when handling any 10-plus inch tablet, especially when it's not an aspect ratio like the iPad, which Samsung, of course, sticks to an aspect ratio that lends itself towards true media consumption when it comes to video content. But still, in this new redesign, I think they've just gotten better, and again, demonstrated by the fact that I do not have tremendous hands, and easily I'm able to go across this whole keyboard. Not that that wasn't possible in previous generations, but definitely improved here in the Tab S lineup in the 10.5-inch form factor. And the keyboard does a really good job. It's one of the few devices out there that you won't necessarily need to replace that stock keyboard that comes out of the box. I want to go over some software. I know a lot of you are interested. Clearly, we still have the ability to multitask. So, if I want to bring up Chrome, and then there's a little bit of hand holding letting us know, and then want to bring up music, I can do that. Now, we also have the ability, as you saw right there, this is not new in software, you get further options above and beyond what you have there with the beyond just resizing is what I meant to say. So I can easily bring up another thing, and this menu also can be customized. We can resize just like we could in all the previous generations, and beyond that, further options. So whether you want to swap them, close out one window, expand one to full screen, all of that is there. And as you saw, I just closed that out. I'm not going to comment on any of this. So that multitasking capability, unlike any other tablet, yes, there are applications you can substitute for it, but nothing will be as clean as what Samsung has integrated here and just refined over the years. That is already a selling point in my opinion, and this works out much better on the 10.5 than it does the 8.4. So if you're trying to decide between the two form factors, I believe the additional $100 for the 10.5-inch Super AMOLED and all that it offers, not only in terms of viewing experience, but also productivity workspace, is well worth it. And even though this is, coming in at £1 and it's substantially heavier than the 8.4-inch version, I still think it's a very portable tablet. Quite frankly, it's still one of the lightest tablets out there, especially considering it does have now a larger screen than any other tablet in its class, and a better display, and Super AMOLED at that, than, again, any other competing device. So something to be aware of. The micro SD card slot for storage expansion is great. A lot of people were concerned with KitKat. They would not have the access to actually write to that directly for different applications. You can, however, don't be too alarmed, use Samsung's own file manager to write to storage. So even though Google doesn't want you using external storage anymore, the cloud is what they want you to really lean on. Samsung knows consumers still want to be able to do that, so you do have that ability. It has not been canned, and this applies to the 8.4 as well, for those of you that are curious. And I like this little launcher. This is another new enhancement that is just part of the experience out of the box with the Tab S 10.5, excuse me. And you can immediately get into all of your content. It will do a timeline, essentially. You can jump into device storage, as well as a breakdown of all of your different content type, which is nice. And then over here, you can essentially do grid style, create a folder, search. I mean, these are all just nice touches to have out of the box. You get your typical Google suite of software, from Gmail to Maps and all of Google's services to sell you basically every type of content that everyone wants to sell you. Beyond that, we also have, of course, Chrome, the Play Store, contacts. If you already own a Galaxy phone, then you can also pair this, sync this up with your phone. That's another video for another day. A cute feature that some people love and others really don't care about, like many of the things that the Magazine UX or TouchWiz, other known traditionally, overlay brings to the table. The camera, we have an 8 megapixel camera on the back, 2 megapixel, 2.1 on the front. They're both competent. In terms of performance, I think the Sony tablet Z2 does a little bit better. Bring something into frame here. And in terms of actual image quality, though, touch to focus, you can see we got a pretty good shot right there. Boom. Just like the phone, they're telling you to hold it in order to really stabilize the shot. Let's go ahead and review. I know on video, because I had this zoomed in, it wasn't the actual experience of the photo taking wasn't perfect, but you can see pretty good shot there with the 8 megapixel rear cam, at least when it comes to what you expect to get out of a mobile device, smartphone, tablet alike. Go ahead and get the RX 100 Mark III out of here. That's what you should really pick up if you're interested in taking photos. But Samsung gives you a lot of enhancements here. All you have to do is hit that mode button and you are greeted by a wide variety, I'll pick it up, of different modes. If you stick with auto, you'll do fairly well, but you can go to the beauty face mode, shot, and more, and it'll give you descriptions and walkthroughs of what every one of these different modes has to offer. Panorama, HDR, for those of you who want that HDR look and feel to your shots without actually doing anything other than switching, a preset. But really, there are a wide variety of modes here, and you can actually manage them as well as download more. So Samsung realizes the appeal here. This is nothing new, by the way, to Samsung's camera mode. In addition, you can go straight into settings, and you can see, just like on the Galaxy S5, you have a wide array of different capabilities to tweak. Of course, no 4K video capture here. In terms of video side of things, for those of you that were wondering, it is capped at 1080p. But in terms of stills, right now it's set to 6 megapixels. Go ahead and jump up to 8. And you can actually control quite a bit here if you desire. But Samsung knows, again, that this is media consumption first, media production not even second, third, fourth, or fifth. So it just is there. It's nice that you have this much going for you. Of course, we can reverse to the front-facing camera right there. You can see my hand both blocking as well as in frame. And that pretty much rounds things out. Instantly capture video with that button, and of course review the gallery with this, by touching the gallery. And then share, do whatever you want. Nothing new there. Let me go ahead and continue on through the software here. Dropbox, that's part of the Samsung experience. Samsung has been basically offering Dropbox as a companion to their tablets for a long time now. That's their personal push to the cloud. The gallery, self-explanatory. Now settings, I showed you before in previous updates. I have brought these on screen. Samsung just continues to refine these, make them cleaner, day after day, release after release. Whether it's the latest tablet they push out or software, they know that this is one area that every consumer wants a clean and clear path to controlling their device. And they've done a pretty good job with that. You can see I'm connected right now over the 5 gigahertz range, and that is utilizing AC connectivity. I'm using the Linksys WRT 1900 AC, and you can see we have a really good connection, I would say, considering the distance to router. If I was in the same room, this number would be more than double that easily. So that's very good. Of course, if I was on my regular 2.4 gigahertz range, we would just have broader range, but nowhere near necessarily that speed. We'd be capping out around 72 megabits, something around there. But everything's here. Bluetooth, in connections, clearly all of your network connection capability, Bluetooth 4.0 option right there to toggle on and off, your airplane mode, data usage if you actually have to monitor it. This is a Wi-Fi only tablet, but they will have data enabled tablets in the future. Again, that will be running a different processor. You'll be looking at a Snapdragon 800 there, which is a little bit faster than the Exynos 5 driving this, but only a little bit. Location mode, more networks, nearby devices, your printing, screen mirroring, all the things you'd expect from a tablet like this, and the ability to detect nearby devices as well, share content. They're really making everything as simple as possible. When it comes to sound, they do have some different presets for sound. This is not in any way surprising. And here, stock, of course, first and foremost, whether or not you want the tablet to be muted or not, your volume levels, vibration intensity, as well as haptic feedback, which, by the way, is pleasing on this tablet. Sometimes haptic feedback just doesn't work out well. I'm a fan of it. Some people hate it. Some people think it's a battery hog. I tend to use it, so that's that. The notifications, the whistle, might be the most annoying notification on earth, but there it is, stock. Touch sounds, of course, you can turn on and off. Your screen lock sound, haptic feedback, the actual audio cues associated with your email and calendar, sound when tapped, you can turn that on or off, and the vibration when tapped also can be turned on and off. When it comes to display, this is obviously a big area of interest considering we've got this gorgeous 10.5-inch 2560 by 1600 resolution Super AMOLED that is unlike anything else on the market. So first and foremost, brightness control. I've had it cranked up the whole time. You can switch over to automatic. I don't recommend it simply because just about everyone has their own comfort level. For this review, the comfort level is clear. Full max, brightness, as much as I could possibly crank out of this thing. Control of screen rotation, smart stay, basically detect whether or not your eyes are viewing the tablet, keep the display on accordingly. That's really a matter of your mileage may vary. It does work. I personally don't care about it. I think many users don't. Some people think it's the best thing since sliced bread. In terms of other things to note here, timeout is obvious given there. The screen mode is what I really came here to show you. Now, adaptive display out of the box is going to be turned on. You want to shut that off because really that's optimizing for battery life, and in all likelihood, you're better off just picking whichever suits your needs best, and that'll depend on what you actually are consuming most with your tablet, whether it's video, still, images, clearly the photo mode optimized for photos, cinema for video, and then basic is really, I would say, the most muted of all modes, so the least oversaturation going on with regard to color, and that's why it is referred to as basic. But that's not to say that the AMOLED photo mode isn't really strong when it comes to color accuracy, because it is. That's another big feat Samsung pulled off with this Super AMOLED display in this large form factor. Auto adjust of the screen tone, again, works in conjunction with power saving, much like the adaptive display mode. Your touch key light duration. You can also increase touch sensitivity. Some of you asked about that. Question answered. That is a capability on this tablet. Keep in mind, if you want to pick up a stylus for this, you can, but this is not a Wacom sensitive, touch sensitive screen, so it's going to work the way a stylus would on any capacitive display. It's not going to be a unique experience, in other words. Your wallpaper, lock screen, of course you can control the lock screen just as you have in the past. Multi-window can be turned on or off. Not sure why you'd ever want to turn that off. That's one of the best features of this device. I mean, being able to simultaneously pull up, information or go from one link in an email to having that link on your right or left side is just a great thing. Notification panel, because that can be completely customized. Your toolbox, I mean, all of these things are here. General tab is exactly what you would expect. For those of you curious about available storage, this is the 16 gigabyte $499 model, which is the one most people are buying. At least it has sold out, or at least inventory is relatively cleared out, is what I'll say. I'm not sure how many of these got delivered, whereas the 8.4s seem to be in stock with a higher frequency right now, at least at Best Buy, which is the launch partner for Samsung here in the States. And you can see out of the box, I really don't have anything installed, and available space right now is 10.61. So keep that in mind. You may want to go with the 32 gigs. In my opinion, for the extra $50, it is worth it, especially considering how much money you're laying into this device. Even with that expandable storage in the form of a micro SD card slot, keep in mind that's never going to be quite as fast as your internal storage, and it's always nice to have as much room down the road considering games, which, by the way, this is not going to have a problem. Gaming, it's not going to have a problem doing anything. So you really do want the storage if you need it. There are some of you that have never hit the wall with storage, so a micro SD card slot is going to be more than enough than you'll ever have to negotiate in day-to-day use. About device, you can see the build number right there, and we're sitting at 4.42. So basically, that's another area. A lot of people criticize Samsung. The updates don't come out fast enough. They have gotten far more aggressive. I expect the same here with the Tab S lineup, simply because it's in their best interest. Application Manager, it's all there. You have control of everything. I want to talk a little bit about the hard buttons, the physical buttons we have here. It's another area of contention. Some people hate them, some people love them. Personally, I would rather have the screen real estate, but we know Google would like all of these buttons on screen. Samsung has at least adhered to Google's structure of having a back, home, and multitask button, and they do work. The multitask works just as you'd expect. You swipe to clear away tasks, and you can also touch them to get into tasks, and it'll just put you right in there. So, having things running in the background, 3 gigs of RAM, a 8-core processor ready to handle heavy and light tasks, you really do have everything you need. The Wi-Fi connectivity is stellar. I haven't had any issues. You've seen what the camera experience is like. The magazine UX is really a Flipboard optimized experience that Samsung has built. Whether or not you're going to love it is a matter of personal taste. You can always cover it up with a launcher without giving up any of the software perks that I've gone over that Samsung does bring to the table. Integrated remote control, great thing to have here, but not a new thing, so I'm not going over that today. Watch On gives you a companion guide, and with the IR blaster built into this tablet, as well as every other Samsung tablet on the market, you have a great universal remote control as a secondary function in this media consumption device. And it is a complement, obviously, to your media consumption habits, because it just takes it to the big screen, especially since mirroring is here. Mapping, they've also basically built in, this is just yet another homepage for you, for productivity, essentially, and entertainment. This is the true productivity homepage where they integrate Handcom Office, which is a great office suite, basically a full equivalency to Microsoft Office that Samsung does bundle with this tablet. So if you're a student or a professional or just want to be able to edit Word documents, deal with Excel, PowerPoint, you have all of that here in Handcom, both for viewing and creation of documents. So that's another critical thing to have out of the box: quick access to your calendar and schedule, as well as email. They're putting everything at your fingertips. If you don't want this, as I said before, Nova Launcher, anything you prefer, just get rid of it. It's that simple. You're buying this for the hardware. Samsung knows not everyone loves the interface. Those that do buy into the experience, they know they're going to be a happy camper because it's a seamless transition from what they get in their phone. No different than what they have come to expect many users from the Apple experience. And that's exactly who Samsung is taking on with the Tab S lineup. After all, it is the extension of the Galaxy S phone in the same way the iPhone and iPad are extensions of one another. So high expectations for this device, and there should be. Best display on the market, some best-in-class hardware, a price point to match, and I do think that because of the display so far, it really truly is an upgrade. And the styling, the overall performance, because the software is more polished, the build has only gotten better, battery life only gotten better as well. You're going to get through a full day here. With screen brightness at 100%, you're going to see, I would say, 6-7 hours, but that's more than previous generations. If you take the brightness down to 25 to 50%, then you're in a whole nother ballpark, especially if you stay away from white pages, because Super AMOLEDs are notorious for sipping, or AMOLEDs in general, for sipping more juice on lighter white backgrounds, web pages, darker colors. They just thrive on, so in terms of less utilization of battery. So keep that in mind. In terms of stock stuff on the tablet, the software is robust. I mean, that's what Samsung does. They want it to be that you have everything you need out of the box. S-Voice, some love. I personally do not use it. I mean, you can wake this tablet up with your voice saying, "Okay, Galaxy," if you want to when it's locked. There are a lot of features that I'll eventually get to in my full review, even though this is a 26-minute video already. But Samsung has made sure to give you everything you could possibly think of. From the basics to all the embellishment that you may or may not want. The side sync, a great companion software for your phone. You just basically get a mirror image of your Samsung device. So if you do have any S phone, in my case the S5, which I'll do a demo with eventually, you can just have a mirror of your phone here. Basically, while you're on your tablet, it is operating over Wi-Fi, a direct connection, so that your phone doesn't have to be next to you. You can be doing everything you want on your media consumption device here in the form of a Tab S, and then seamlessly, take a call, make a text, whatever, from here, even though, of course, you're doing it remotely. So there are just so many features. I mean, Evernote is on here stock. Business Week is tied in because of the obvious ties for media consumption that Samsung has had with Bloomberg for quite some time now. The New York Times, Netflix, Dropbox. These are familiar faces if you've owned any Samsung Galaxy Tab ever in your life. And it's going to stay that way. They are dropping some things, which is also a good thing, recognition that some things were fruitless, but Remote PC is here. I mean, they really have covered all of their bases. And it all just comes down to whether or not you're willing to wait, folks, because I do think a Note version of this will eventually hit. And if the pen appeals to you, if you are upset that this doesn't have USB 3.0, if you're upset that it doesn't have a later generation or newer processor, those things will most likely come in the form of the Note lineup, which is their creme de la creme, the top tier, even beyond the flagship S lineup. And that's just a matter of fact when it comes to Samsung's Galaxy structuring of their business. So if you're willing to wait, if you need those things, wait. Otherwise, every day that you're not enjoying the Galaxy Tab S lineup and the Super AMOLED display is just another day that you're really still living, as far as I'm concerned right now, with another generation of device when it comes to the actual quality of the display, which is a tremendous part of your experience. And right now, when it comes to form factor, I mean, how much better are you really going to do? I mean, the Sony Z2 is, don't get me wrong, one of the thinnest and lightest tablets ever made, but it just doesn't have this display. Yes, it has waterproofing, but even the design this year, they seem to have gotten it right. I mean, when I look at this, I like both colors. Both the white and the titanium bronze are both equally nice. I do prefer the titanium bronze. I'll just give you a quick color scheme here, side by side, as far as what the back of the devices look like respectively. Of course, this is the 8.4, but that does give you a very clear contrast. No fingerprint magnet here on either color. And when it comes to build quality, even though everything's plastic, this thing is solid and no dust under the screen, no dead pixels, no backlight bleed. Because we're dealing with Super AMOLEDs, we ditch so many of those QC problems that we traditionally dealt with regular LCDs. So there's so much to like here about this new display. I know I've stressed it over and over again, but there's a reason. It really does take us into another generation. So really what it comes down to, at least thus far in my experience, is that the Tab S brings you, of course, this gorgeous new display, which you will not find anywhere else. Of course, updated software that outperforms every previous generation of Samsung tablet, hardware aside, of course. You're also getting the redesign of the actual device itself, which is more attractive and I would say better built than any Samsung tablet before it. So that is the polish that comes together here in the form of the Tab S. As far as hitting these accidentally, that's going to happen. That is part of the compromise of such a thin bezel on a large display in such a light form factor at 1 pound. And still, you are going to get through a day, no matter really what your habits are with the brightness settings, for those of you that have been watching as we've gone down now to 44% at full brightness. And the actual notification window, again, that you're not going to be hiding no matter what, unless you get a different ROM on here. I'm personally quite happy with it. I mean, being able to customize this, if you're used to it, again, coming from the phone, then you're going to feel right at home. Even if you're not, it still does make just about everything really convenient. You can even go into that ultra power saving mode where you really just crank everything down and squeeze as much juice out of the device as you possibly can. And the fact that you've got a Super AMOLED, again, leverages that better than a traditional LCD would, because it will literally only light up the colors that it requires, which in monochrome, well, self-explanatory, because that's how AMOLEDs work to begin with. So that pretty much covers it for now. I know this was a 31-minute video. That wasn't my intention. I think I said quick update at the beginning. I'll amend that. I'll even put a little annotation in there for those of you that are disturbed by getting too much info. But that rounds out my experience thus far with the Tab S 10.5. I'm really liking it, and I can recommend this for those of you that are wondering, if you're on the fence, is it worth upgrading really just for the quality of the display and the extra battery life and design? I say absolutely, unless you're waiting for the Note update, because we know it's coming. Samsung has been making more tablets than anyone else out there, so a revision is always in the works. Samsung has quarterly earnings to worry about. And that's one of the reasons, unfortunately, software isn't their legacy, as we all know, in terms of updating, because they are always trying to come out with the latest and greatest device, which is, again, another element of the compromise as consumers that we have to put up with, both the good and the bad. Any questions or comments, please feel free to post them. And of course, as usual, please feel free to subscribe. Later.